Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I'm Alison LaGrange, live from Durban, South Africa. Let's begin with the top headlines. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to leave for Japan today on a two-day visit for the 15th annual summit between the two nations. He will then head to China for the SCO meeting in Tianjin. China says its delegation, headed by a top commerce official, will head to the United States this week for trade talks. This comes amid an ongoing tariff war between the two nations. Ukraine claims the second largest Russian airstrike with 629 drones and missiles fired toward its territory since the war began in 2023. More than a dozen people have been killed in the attack. Japan hails unprecedented security cooperation with the UK as a Royal Navy aircraft carrier sails into Tokyo for a goodwill visit. And weather forecasters issue a red alert in northern Italy and parts of the Swiss Alps over the risk of flooding and landslides after torrential rains fueled by Hurricane Erin. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest from the US, where the Republican governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, has launched a sharp criticism of the H-1B visa program that allows foreign nationals to work in America. He called the visa program a total scam that hurts American workers. He alleged that there are people making money off this system. The remarks were made during an interview. Listen in.
I think you're right to say the H-1B has become a total scam. These companies game the system. Some of these companies are laying off large numbers of Americans while also hiring new H-1B workers and renewing existing H-1B visas. Most of them H-1Bs are from one country, India. There's a cottage industry about how all those people make money off the system.
This is not the first time that the Republican leader has lashed out over the foreign workers visa program. Earlier in January, DeSantis said that there are big problems associated with the program. He is also not the only Republican to target the H-1B visa policy. U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is one of them. Like DeSantis, Lutnick also believes that the H-1B scheme is a scam. He also signaled a wage-based immigration shift in the policy. His remarks were in tune with the Trump administration's proposed draft. The U.S. government has proposed changes to the H-1B visa program. The changes are expected to eliminate the currently used lottery system, under which a lottery decides which employers can proceed with visa petitions, and introduce a wage-based allocation instead. Now, this would give preference to higher-earning applicants first. Critics of the changes argue that the H-1B program fills the labor gap in the American markets, mainly in the science and technology fields. Now, if this draft becomes law, it would hurt Indians the most. Why? Because Indians benefit the most from this program. According to data in the financial year of 2023, the U.S. government issued more than 386,000 H-1B visas, out of which more than 72% of the receivers were Indians. Continuing with its crackdown on immigration, after the H-1B, the Trump administration is planning to target visas for students, cultural exchange visitors, and journalists. The government has proposed a regulation aimed at tightening the duration of these visas. If passed, the targeted groups would face more hurdles. They will have to apply for extensions to their stay in the U.S. They would no longer enjoy a more flexible legal status, depending on the duration of the program or employment. Now, the proposed regulation would create a fixed time period. A student and exchange visa period would be capped at 4 years. Visa for journalists, which now last for years, would be limited to 240 days. And for Chinese media personnel, it would be for 90 days. The Trump administration is zeroing in on US visa holders. Reports say over 55 million people are under the scanner. The country has also floated plans of a gold card, which will replace the green card. Now, these moves are a part of a growing crackdown on foreigners. It could reshape who stays in America. And moving on, the US President Donald Trump's unprecedented 50% tariffs on Indian exports to the United States have now come into effect. In response, Indian exporters are fighting back, seeking new markets and calling out what they describe as tariff blackmail by Washington. Indian exporters are moving quickly to offset the impact, targeting new partners in the countries such as Russia, in Southeast Asia or ASEAN region, and Latin America. The leather footwear industry, a key labor-intensive export sector, is leading this counter-strategy. As shoes roll off production lines, India's manufacturers say they will not surrender, but diversify.
We are looking at the Russian market also again. We are looking at the CIS countries also again. We have the ASEAN countries also. We have the South America also. It's a huge market. They have to understand nobody is going to surrender in any blackmailing. Nobody can going to surrender.
Among India's key partners, Russia is leading the chorus of support, openly welcoming Indian exports at a time when the US is slapping new duties. And Moscow says Trump's tariffs violate World Trade Organization principles, and that Russia is ready to absorb more Indian goods.
Our take is that, any kind of a trade protectionism policy provokes disputes and instability in the global trade, as well as violation of the most favored nation principles of the WTO. So, if the Indian goods are facing difficulties entering the US market, the Russian market would welcome Indian imports.
But New Delhi is seizing this as an opening to reform. Reports say the government is looking to cut taxes and red tape. 2 high-level panels have been formed to drive policy change. And India's economy is largely driven by domestic demand rather than exports. Private consumption makes up about 60% of India's gross domestic product. And while the exports to the US are significant, they still amount to just 2% of India's total GDP. Experts argue India can turn this tariff challenge into an opportunity to strengthen manufacturing and redesign supply chains.
I think the way forward requires some kind of a calibrated retaliation to US measures, diversification of export sources, a resilient, forward-looking export strategy that balances self-reliance with global integration.
This is an opportunity for us to see, to make our internal manufacturing ecosystem more strong, and we have the opportunity to be the alternative for China Plus One. I think that this is the time to really realign the supply chain and focus on economies other than US for the timing. However, we urge both the government of India and government of US to engage in a dialogue so that these disruptions can be sorted out.
In the coming days, Indian officials are expected to host a series of meetings with industry leaders to mitigate the impact of these tariffs. India's ruling party points to the recently forged free trade agreements with countries such as Australia, the UAE and the UK. Meaning diversification of exports has become the key mantra for New Delhi to win the tariff war.
We are working on minimizing the impact. One of the ways, of course, is to find alternative markets. We are looking, we have free trade agreements with Australia, UAE, UK, EFTA countries. We're close to concluding a free trade agreement with the European Union. This means that we can access different markets, and we would have the opportunity to divert some of our exports in that direction.
So while Trump's tariffs have raised new challenges, India is pushing back. Exporters are diversifying. Moscow and other partners are welcoming Indian imports. And Prime Minister Modi is pushing reforms to boost domestic capacity. India, far from backing down, is making sure its goods continue to reach global consumers. And shifting focus to the Philippines, where tensions continue to soar in the West Philippine Sea, or as China calls it, the South China Sea. The Filipino Navy said that a Chinese Navy tugboat was spotted approaching its warship, the BRP Sierra Madre, stationed near the Second Thomas Shoal, or as Manila calls it, the Ayungin Shoal. Now, a tugboat is highly maneuverable, designed to push or pull other vessels across high seas. The Philippine Navy confirmed that the 1,500-ton Chinese tugboat was sighted just 5 nautical miles, or 9 kilometers, from the Filipino warship. But they added that it would take much more than a tugboat to move the BRP Sierra Madre. Now, at the same time, China is constantly shadowing Filipino ships in the area. Satellite imagery shows that 2 Filipino Coast Guard ships and a civilian fishery patrol vessel were followed by a Chinese Coast Guard ship near the Second Thomas Shoal. To counter the presence, the Filipino ships continued to circle the area before turning back near the Half Moon Shoal. Now, this unfolded just over 100 kilometers southeast of the Second Thomas Shoal. These recurring provocative incidents come at a time when Manila is set to begin a resupply mission for its troops, stationed on its warship deployed near the Second Thomas Shoal, which China also claims. The Filipino crew aboard the BRP Sierra Madre last received supplies in May. Manila has announced another resupply mission this week, which was renewed for the friction between the two sides. And now the Philippines is taking its defense measures further by conducting naval drills with allies including Australia and Canada, deploying warships and aircraft to simulate aerial and maritime threats off the South China Sea shoals. Now, these joint naval drills were conducted near the Scarborough Shoal, where 2 Chinese ships collided with each other earlier this month, while unsuccessfully trying to repel a Filipino vessel. The Philippine military said the exercises east of the Scarborough Shoal were completed safely without any incident. China maintains it would defend the shoal and the surrounding waters, despite a 2016 international tribunal ruling denouncing its claims. For Manila, the message is clear. The Philippines is standing its ground, bolstering its maritime defenses with allies, ensuring its troops are supplied, its territory protected, and its rights in the West Philippine Sea are upheld. And finally, on to some updates from Argentina, where chaos unfolded during President Javier Milei's election campaign rally near the Argentine capital of Buenos Aires. Milei was on board a pickup truck with his sister Karina Milei, greeting supporters in the city of Lomas de Zamora. Now, his motorcade was attacked by protesters angry over a corruption scandal. They threw rocks, bottles, and plants towards him.
We were all calmly waiting for Milei when the caravan appeared. I've lost my voice from shouting. We all came in a caravan, and chunks of rubble started flying, really seriously like this. I already showed one that hit me on the back. It almost hit me on the head. They were throwing everything at the president. He had to turn here and leave because it's inevitable if rubble is raining down on you. There's a dumpster here placed on purpose with debris.
The attack forced the far-right leader to cut short the rally, and as soon as his trucks sped away, clashes broke out between Milei supporters and opponents.
It's one more mockery, given what the president's administration has been in 18 months. That he comes to the neighborhoods only during campaign season to rub it in our faces that he spent 18 months traveling abroad to receive bogus awards, sorry for the expression, and that he doesn't devote himself precisely to touring the districts of the metro area, the provinces.
After the turmoil, Milei's spokesperson said that members of the opposition attacked the president's caravan. No injuries were reported in the incident. Now, Milei was campaigning for local elections in Buenos Aires on the 7th of September. He was also rallying support ahead of the midterm elections on the 26th of October. The Argentine president's sister, Karina Milei, was also a part of his caravan, and she is also his chief of staff. And like several others in Milei's inner circle, she is embroiled in a corruption scandal, accusing her of bribery in Argentina's Agency for the Disabled. Milei's sister allegedly received kickbacks from pharmaceutical sales to the Disability Services Agency. The alleged scandal has been making headlines in Argentina. Local media have been running audio recordings with a voice sounding like that of the Disability Agency head, Diego Spagnuolo, and he can reportedly be heard discussing bribery and alluding to Karina Milei taking payments. Now, last week, the Argentine authorities raided a series of properties, and the crackdown was a part of a criminal investigation into the alleged kickback scheme. Milei's government also fires Spagnuolo, calling it a move as a preventative measure. Now, Argentina grapples with high inflation and low public trust in institutions. Karina Milei's alleged corruption scandal only adds to that sentiment, and the attack on the president's rally underscores the public ire over it. Now, this could potentially hurt the far-right leader's run-up to the legislative elections. Milei took office in December of 2023 on the promise of reviving Argentina's ailing economy. He has managed to lower stubbornly high inflation by making large budget cuts. Now, the upcoming elections would be his first big test to counter the opposition's bid to rein in his spending cuts. And that's all we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned to First Post.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on First Post.